Hello, everyone, and welcome back to We're Watching Star Trek, the original series. Today, we are going to cover Season 1, Episode 9, Dagger of the Mind. Original air date, November 3rd, 1966. I am Brandon, and here, as always, with Paul.
Yo, what up, people? I'm here again, ready to talk. Let's nerd out.
And we still got Dan.
How's it going?
All right, so this episode opens up with a shot of the Enterprise orbiting a ringed planet now. So we get our first ringed planet in the series.
Which looked pretty good.
Yeah, I think that was probably the CGI for like the remastered version. Because I think, didn't I send you like a picture of how the old one was before they remastered it? And it was like, there was like a red planet and it just looked like basically a big red ball.
Yeah.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'll have to send that to you too, Paul.
Oh, they updated the CGI for this particular like little part, 1 second part. Oh, okay. I thought I thought it looked good for. I just know it looked good. Kind of moved on.
Yeah, the remastered version, it's all CGI, and the old one was all model work, which I really liked the model that they used, but like the planets that I saw it was seriously just like a big red ball with like a little white spot on the top for like the polar caps. Like it was kind of bad.
Okay.
Yeah. But we get a close-up of a big container labeled Caution Infrasensory Drugs. And the container's got a destination of the Tantalus Penal Colony, attention to Dr. Tristan Adams. And at first I thought it was just like a little medicine container, but then like some guy comes and grabs it and puts it on the transporter. And
you thought
it was
maybe
huge.
they zoomed in real close to a medicine container?
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it was huge. You put a person in there.
Random comment. The word penal colony makes me laugh every time I hear it. In anything, because I'm like, the word penal itself is just funny. I'm like, penal colony. Oh, and once I saw this on screen though, by the way, I thought, oh great, a prison break. Like I said, oh, probably prison break thing. I started predicting the whole show immediately. I was like, oh, prison show, something's going on.
I thought you were gonna say you thought it was gonna be like an episode about penises or something. Maybe we do that in the future, maybe.
Yeah, a penis one.
Yeah. So yeah, a guy loads the container and some other boxes into the transporter, and a couple of the techs are, trying to get things transported, and they're having a little bit of trouble with the transporter. And where's Scotty been? He's been gone for like 3 or 4 episodes now.
They probably get vacation days, so maybe he's just taking a few days off right now.
Yeah, I think he's actually been gone since the virus outbreak, hasn't he? Like, have we seen him since then? Actually, he was around for Mudd's Women. Yeah,
it's been about 2-3 episodes at this point.
Honestly, a couple of the minor characters, you notice, we don't see them much. Like, even the mid-level minor character, we'll see them for a little bit here and there, and then they're gone for a bunch of episodes. Then one episode, they're like one of the main characters again, and then another episode, we don't see them again. So it's pretty interesting how they do their characters in the show.
Yeah. Yeah, but I would think, like, every time they do anything in the transporter room, like, that's an excuse to have Scotty, though, right? Like, isn't that kind of his job?
Yeah, but I think the idea here, because 2 seconds later, when he messes up the transportation, when he messes it up, it shows you that the shield exists.
Right.
So you might have to have somebody who doesn't, because we're not gonna believe Scotty doesn't know that.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe
actually that's a really good point.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's a new guy here we'll teach the people watching. Hey, the shield is up. We'll let them know that this exists, so it's part of you kind of learn it by itself.
Yeah, I think actually that's a really good point that they use it as a plot device to convey some information. I didn't even think about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, the tech, tries to get stuff moving, and he's having some trouble, and Captain Kirk enters the room, and he's like, hey, you guys having some trouble? And the dude's like, yeah, I don't understand why, the transport is not working. And Kirk says to remember that they're beaming supplies to a penal colony. And the tech's like, oh, man, that's right. There's a security force field there. And so Kirk calls down to request that they open the force field. And they beam down the supplies, and Kirk asks if there's any incoming cargo. And the tech says that there's some research materials being set up that are bound for the Central Bureau of Penology. I didn't know penology was a word, which I guess is like probably a study of like prison system or something. Yeah, a study of peniles, I guess.
Yeah, something like that. I do want to clarify, since I'm the fashion guy here, I don't want to specify something. Okay, so there's three guys. You got Kirk and the 2 engineer guys. The one engineer guys has on like this Komodo type thing. Is that the first time we've seen this? for the people in
No,
engineering, or is that a normal? I don't remember seeing this particular style. Maybe it happened before and I didn't notice it. Or is that normal?
I think we've seen them in other colors in like the maintenance crew. I think most of the maintenance crew wear a blue version of that. It seems to be like it looks like a kind of really thin material, almost like it's a disposable like work uniform of some sort.
It's
But
just
we've definitely seen it before.
okay. It's just weird to me that it's like a. It almost looks like I don't know, like Hugh Hefner like pajama thing that you throw over and just throw a butter on it. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, so they get a message that the cargo is ready to beam up, and then they beam it on board. So Kirk heads towards the door, and he stops and suggests to the technician, Berkeley, that he should refamiliarize himself with the penal colony procedures. And I'm just like, dude, what an asshole. Like, the guy already knew that he messed up, and that he's probably not going to make that mistake again, right? We've all been in that situation where, like, you just kind of screw something up in front of a boss, and then, like, you'd never make that mistake again. But Kirk just has to stop and let him know that he screwed up on his way out.
Yeah, but
I
I
guess
think
just
the way
kind
Kirk
of
says
a
it though,
dick
he doesn't say it with like what like one of our bosses would say it, so it make us feel like crap. You know, he said, "Hey man, maybe we should go ahead and review the whole procedure." Like he was kind of.
I thought he was just being smug.
Yeah, I thought he was
I
smug
thought,
about it.
Oh, I thought he was being kind of a smart ass, but kind of jokingly, like the way his I don't know, I can't explain it.
Well, I felt like he was being smug about it because, like, hey, what's taking so long? We got shit to do.
Yeah, kind of a like you should know this already kind of thing.
Okay,
yeah, that's how I kind of took it.
Maybe I took it the wrong way. That's on me then.
Kirk exits the room, and Berkeley goes to get a vault assignment for the box of records. And the last remaining technician grabs his little data tablet, and he turns away from the transporter to look at like a data panel on the wall, and he's just like writing stuff down, and like obviously pretending because he looks like it's very hard, I'm sure, to just pretend you're writing stuff down and it looks awful. But while he's doing that, the box lid slowly starts to open, and a guy in an oxygen mask kind of peeks through the opening, and he slowly climbs out of the box and approaches the technician from behind and just knocks him out. And then he makes a run for the door. Yeah, gives him a little, like, just straight judo chop right in the back of the neck.
That guy went down pretty easily from one hit too, mind you.
Yeah, it's like that TV movie show, like, I need this guy gone real quick. Yeah, just a real quick chop in the back of the neck will do it. So he runs to the door, and there are too many people out in the corridor, and he comes back into the room and starts looking like towards the technician that he had just knocked out, and then it fades into the show's intro. So we come back from the intro, and there's a really quick captain's log just kind of detailing the cargo exchange, and Kirk and McCoy are just chilling on the bridge, where Kirk is talking about how he would like to meet Dr. Adams, which is the guy from the medicine label. And he asks Bones if he's ever been to a penal colony, and McCoy's like, well, a cage is a cage. And Kirk is like, well, that's, you're behind the times. They're more like a resort now. Like, they're not nearly what they used to be.
He's like, prison has gotten so much better.
Yeah, he's like, if I wasn't a captain, like, the only place I'd rather be is prison. Like, it's fantastic. But Uhura interrupts them with an incoming message, which she plays through a loudspeaker.
Well, she's been gone for a while also.
Yeah, she has had really nothing to do on the ship, I guess. She's on vacation with Scotty.
Yeah, more and more, man. Like I said, these minor characters, man, they're still minor. They're minor, and they still
they focus on the big three.
So.
Yep. But the message is from the Tantalus penal colony, and they're saying that they can't find one of their violent inmates, which I guess is somewhat of a problem for them. But back in the transporter room, the inmate has stolen the unconscious tech's clothing, and it's a good thing they're the same size and they fit perfectly.
That's what I thought. I'm like, man, what a coincidence.
Yeah. Some people just have all the luck. So back on the bridge, the message is still playing and explains that the inmate may have hidden in the box that they transported to the Enterprise. And I was like, man, Kirk's going to be real pissed at that tech for this one. He's going to be like, make sure you review, the procedure for checking transported boxes when we get done here.
He's like, why didn't you open it right away?
You should always expect there's a guy in the box,
especially from a penal colony.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, like, why wouldn't you search that box if it is from like a prison colony, just to be safe?
I took it he was in there for a while because he had an oxygen mask on. So how long was he?
That mask wasn't hooked up to anything, by the way.
He's like, this is really helping.
The mask was seriously. I didn't even pay that much close attention.
Yeah, there was like no like cord or tube coming off it or anything.
Oh, bro, I didn't notice that. I noticed crap like, oh man, I didn't notice that one. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm a little upset.
So Kirk sets the ship to security alert 3, which is one higher than 2, and Uhura broadcasts the alert over the ship's intercom system. The inmate at this point is just kind of running through the corridor, and another crew member tries to get his attention. He's like, hey, you're from engineering. And the inmate like freaks out and he runs away. And so the crew member calls the bridge to report that he saw some suspicious person in section C of deck 14. And what I really liked about this so far is I could tell they weren't going to spend 45 minutes tracking this guy down. Immediately they're like, hey, we're at alert, and somebody's like, oh shit, a suspicious dude, like I better call the captain about this.
Yeah, the guy that saw him was a complete idiot.
It's funny. Yeah, he ran up and he hit the microphone immediately, like, oh, we got him here. He didn't try to approach him to stop him. He's like, hey, he's on deck 14 about yada 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 yada. I like that.
Yeah, I was worried it was going to be seriously like 20 minutes of hide and seek or something on the ship, like just trying to find him, but I'm glad that it wasn't that. So Uhura reports the information that she learned to Kirk, and Spock is like, yeah, I called the security team, and I'm going to have them close off deck 14, and we're going to start a search. And it's like, damn, dude, like these guys are so efficient. Like I love how efficient they are in situations like this. Like,
you see, I'm about to kill that efficiency in about 2 seconds. Keep go keep going on. Say what happens next.
No, Paul, I feel like me and you might be on the same page on upcoming why did they do this way? But go ahead.
Yeah, so back on deck 14, the inmate's like hiding in a doorway, and a member of the security crew.
Stop there. Hold on. Stop there. That conversation. My turn now. Who on earth does not clear the room to the left doorway? You just walk straight ahead, bro. Like what? Oh my! I was like, yo, are you kidding me? Listen, I watch TV, I watch movies, I watch cop shows. I was in the Army. All this stuff. I know that everybody on planet Earth knows you don't walk past a doorway. You clear the doorway.
Okay, before we get into that, so he walks by the doorway where the dude was hiding, and then the guy comes up behind the security member and like chokes him out and takes his phaser and runs. And yes, I also have a note that he is really fucking bad at searching.
Dude,
like, he didn't even look.
Get it? Like it put me on 12 immediately. I thought, what in the hell? The doorway is there. Yeah. You did not turn. You didn't even glance at the doorway. Like,
maybe it's his first day also.
Yeah. I was saying that like Kirk and Spock and like the bridge crew are on top of shit. Like they did everything immediately, but this guy needs to be kicked off the security team.
Like if he would have like looked that way and would have grabbed the gun and pulled him in or something, I'd be like, okay, whatever. But he just didn't even bother to notice the door. That there shows me that Kirk is now the issue, because Captain Kirk is not training his security officers in a proper procedure and searking now. So now
when you lose people at a rate that the Enterprise has lost people, you don't have time for proper training on these guys.
After I write my report, I'm calling this security guy. I'm calling the whole crew. Like, look, let's walk through what we do. How come we didn't get him right here? You didn't check that door? Are you kidding me? It's time for you to get retrained. I'm retraining all security guards today. Figure this crap out, because this is by far one of the worst searches I ever seen on a TV show or movie ever.
Paul has a good point.
He did not even dude.
Their security is pretty terrible.
So annoying. He didn't even.
Yeah, no, I'm not dising at all. No, I 100% agree with Paul.
He didn't even notice the door at all, bro. Like, no. it's not that he like looked and glanced at. He didn't even look that way, like at all. Bro,
yeah,
at all?
Who do we think is in charge of the security team? Like, that has to be
don't know, but
somebody that we haven't met yet, right?
I don't know, but #fire him.
Nah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know who's in charge of security. I don't know who's in charge of this. Maybe each security has their own little unit captain. I don't know. But somebody is getting fired after we have the review of this prisoner and how he got a weapon and choked you out.
Yeah.
He's 70, bro. Look at him.
Hey, I think they said he was in his early 40s, okay? He's still spry.
Oh, man, he's seen some miles then.
Early 40s? Look at him, bro. He's like 70, 60.
That's what they said in the report of him. I think they said he was like 6 foot something and like early 40s.
Well, whatever they did to him on that penal collar must have aged him this much, because he don't look early 40s. Okay, I'm early 40s. He look about 60. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
My bad. I'm done, people. Rant's over. I apologize about that. It got me.
Yeah, so he knocks the security guy out, takes his phaser, and we go back to the bridge, and Spock says that they're expanding their search to other sections because they haven't found anything on Deck 14. And then Kirk calls the Tantalus colony to get a hold of Dr. Adams. And Dr. Adams answers, and Kirk tells him that they have an escaped inmate on their ship. And Uhura interrupts him to say that they received a report that they found an unconscious transporter crewman. So at least they know that. And they didn't note it. They didn't note that the transporter crewman had his clothes stolen, so that like everybody would know.
Minor
to watch
detail.
out for a guy wearing an engineer. Yeah, like hey, look out for this dude in an engineer uniform. But Dr. Adams apologizes, and he's like, hey, that's my fault. And he warns that the inmate is very clever and extremely violent. And Kirk just says that they'll keep him updated, and then he hangs up on him like he always does. Like I'm really starting to notice that Kirk just hangs up on everyone. But I also noticed that the doctor didn't seem too upset at this. He's just like, oh, my bad.
No, the doctor seemed very reasonable.
And it wasn't even that. It's just like he seemed to not care about that this guy had escaped his prison and ended up on the Enterprise. He's just like, oh, yeah, my bad. Let me know what happens with that.
Yeah, maybe it happens all the time.
Yeah, every time they get a visitor. So the door to the bridge opens, and Kirk and McCoy like quickly turn to see who it is, and it's just a security team member who steps in.
Which I have an issue with this part right here. Why wouldn't the security guard be on the other side of the door so he could see who's coming towards the bridge?
Right, or at the very least facing the door.
Yeah, like I'm going to be.
Wait. Actually, doesn't an elevator lead directly to the bridge? I thought it wasn't that. There's like a corridor on the other side of the door. Doesn't an elevator take you straight to the bridge?
Yes, is it an elevator?
I think so. He could still just stand there and go up and down with the damn thing. Like he could be at the other side of the elevator too, right? He could sit at the bottom part.
I thought it was an elevator, but once again, keep moving on. See what happens next.
Yeah. So Bones and Kirk look at each other kind of relieved. And then I noticed that we have more background chatter going on, like more radio reports of the crew just, searching and what they're finding and stuff, which I really, really like because Dan and I have discussed that, it makes the ship feel more alive when they've got that kind of thing going on. Like they're, like the bridge is the only section of the ship.
Right.
But, so Spock makes a remark to McCoy about how it's interesting that, Earth has glorified organized violence for over 40 centuries, but then they imprison anybody who employs it privately. Good remark by him.
By the way, that is by far one of the best quotes of life. Like every once in a while, they have these quotes that hit you like, that is an amazingly clever quote.
Yeah.
Because if you just think about that in general, like that whole quote in general, it's amazing. I like that quote a lot. It stuck with me.
Yeah. But McCoy kind of takes it personally, and he sarcastically says that he's like, oh, of course, you guys have found an answer, you guys being the Vulcans. And Spock says that they, dispose of their emotions, and that there's no emotion, then there's no violence, which I don't think is 100% correct. Like, yeah, I'm sure a lot of violence comes out of emotion, but it also sometimes comes out of necessity. Exactly. Or, what people think is necessary.
He doesn't say no violence, though. He says no motive to violence.
Okay, that's true. But it's still... yeah, that's what he says, but also...
But also implies that most violence comes from emotion, which actually technically is true. If you think about it, a lot of the violence, like, oh, you're mad at somebody, beat them up, that's anger, so you'll fight. Or if you think of somebody kills somebody out of anger, they kill them, that's anger, they kill them. Or they enjoy the pleasure of killing, that's the pleasure emotion. Pleasure, I'm not sure, being happy about, feeling good about it, that's leads to violence. So I think what he's saying actually technically is true. There's a step before violence. And it has to have an emotion thing. Either you enjoy killing, which is part of an emotion, or if you kill or hurt somebody, it's part of an emotion too. Either way, if you're unhappy, you hurt somebody, that's also an emotion. So technically, what he's saying is true. Any kind of emotions lead to the violence.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't remember when I was watching it. I had an argument against it, and I didn't take the notes. But I think that you would have just destroyed my argument anyway. So
yeah, that's pretty good laid out.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's a good observation.
Yeah.
So At this point, the door opens, and then the inmate emerges, and he delivers another karate chop to knock out that guard. He didn't take his gun, though. Like, he could have had two guns.
Moment here, please. The security guards are trash. Let's just say it. Security here is trash. You're not looking at you heard the doors open, you didn't turn around. He's let the dude chop you. You're not looking at the door. I mean, just...
No, these guys should be like Navy SEALs. Like, getting taken down by a simple judo chop should be...
Dude, not even Navy SEAL. Just imagine if you're security, right? I got my kid. I'm not going to leave the front door open, unlocked, whatever, so he can walk right out. Like, I feel truly like I'm not even doing my job. You're looking forward straight, looking at people. Why aren't you looking at the door, which is the only way inside the room? If you're there to protect Captain Kirk and the crew, apparently.
Couldn't they lock that door down?
Whatever. I don't know. I just don't understand why he's not looking at the door.
So.
Well, if you have a convict running around on your ship, one of the things that you should do is probably lock down the helm so no one can get in there.
Oh my God! How smart is that, Dad? I appreciate your genius, simple concept.
Like, we'll just put a security guard by the door looking the wrong way and be like, it's gonna be, it'll be okay.
You think that maybe they just didn't think that he was like a credible threat at this time, and that's why they're only at like security level 3? I mean, I don't know how many security levels they have, but
I don't know.
Maybe they just thought it's not that big a deal right now.
I don't know. The Dr. Adams did say that he was very potentially violent, so that should have. So I assume they went from 1 to 3 for the whole violence thing.
Well, not only violent but clever.
Yeah, so it's like all they have to do, lock all the doors. He can't get anywhere. They're all electronic. Every door is in this place electronic. Close all the doors. He can't get anywhere.
Then you would just do a sweeping room by room, and unless you're going to skip a couple doors.
Room. Exactly, because
except that one guy's going to miss every room and just walk down a hallway and be like, there's nowhere he could be.
Oh my God, security on this whole show. When I first started the show, I didn't think I had much to talk about, but I realized how much I hated security for the first 10 minutes of the show. They really
I'm starting to understand the whole red shirt memes about how like they die and they're just generally useless, because that seems to be the case so far.
Yep. All right, go ahead, man. I just calm down.
The inmate asks where the captain is, and of course Kirk steps up because he's a decent captain sometimes. And he's like, the inmate says that his name is Van Gelder, but he kind of has like some trouble spitting it out. Like it seems like it causes him pain. And he says that he wants asylum, and Kirk's like, what, at gunpoint? Which, hey, fair question. And Van Gelder says that he wants Kirk to promise that, he's not going to take him back to the penal colony, and Kirk says, no promise. So, like, he's not even willing to entertain the idea.
I actually appreciated that from him, because, like, no, you're not going to push me around.
Yeah, he's shown during this one and during Mud's Women that he is not willing to negotiate, especially when he believes that he has the upper hand. So Kirk starts walking towards Van Gelder, and he starts demanding that he hands over the weapon. And Van Gelder threatens to disable the ship by destroying the control panel. And Spock starts to kind of move in from Van Gelder's right. So Van Gelder swings his weapon to point at Spock, and Kirk moves in and kicks the phaser out of his hand while Spock moves in and does the Vulcan nerve pinch to incapacitate Van Gelder. And I really feel like that kick was unnecessary. Like, he's in, arm's reach. Did he have to go with the kick? Like, good for Shatner and his flexibility, but that was just really unnecessary.
I think the kick itself looked very awkward.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Like, he was kicking a field goal.
He's like, it looked kind of awkward.
Yeah, he did like a field goal kick.
Yeah.
I did appreciate the takedown, though.
Yeah, that's good teamwork.
Spock moving in from behind like that. And we finally get to see the use of the nerve pinch again. And it could have come in handy so many times over the last few episodes. And I understand they probably didn't want it to be overused, but yeah, it definitely came in handy here.
It also would have been nice if you checked on the security guard that got knocked out right behind you.
Yeah, maybe he should teach that how to do that. Like, teach the security team how to do that.
Maybe that's who should be the head of security. Would be Spock.
Yeah, that's fair.
Spock.
The guy that it can incapacitate you with like a touch.
Yeah, definitely Spock.
So Kirk orders Van Gelder to be moved to the sick bay and orders them to reverse course back to the Tantalus colony. And we go to the sick bay where Bones is telling Kirk that Van Gelder is abnormal, but that it's not schizophrenia and there's no tissue damage or any condition that, Bones is acquainted with. And he says that it took almost a triple dose of sedative to put Van Gelder under. He says that Van Gelder would, he'd say one thing and then he'd seem to forget what he was saying and then he would say something else, but that there was always like a ring of truth to what he was saying. And he tells Kirk that he would really like to study him, which is, he says it kind of like, I don't know, kind of weird, like he's like as an alien or something. But Kirk is like, well, this whole thing is not our problem. And Van Gelder then like sits up and he says that Kirk is a smug button-pushing brass hat, which is, I don't know like how insulting that was in the 60s, but doesn't really, I feel like Kirk would just be like, okay.
No, the brass hat really hurt his feelings.
He's like, brass hat? Oh.
It's probably a reference to, it's probably a space, something you say up in space.
It seems like he's just like a pencil pushing kind of like.
Without even thinking
jerk.
about it, I'm gonna go with brass hat. As in like captain, brass, medals. So maybe brass hat is a term for you would use to talk about a captain or somebody in position of power.
Yeah, and he goes on to talk about how Bones and Kirk are like so sure of themselves. So Kirk comes back to him and asks what his name is, and he tries to respond, but again, he seems to be in a lot of pain before he can say his name is Simon Van Gelder. He struggles to speak again, but he says that he was the director at the Tantalus colony, and he tries to keep talking, but the pain is just too much for him, and he just starts to laugh uncontrollably, and he suggests that someone has erased or edited something, but he can't seem to get it out. And at this point, I was like, okay, I like where this is going. Like, we get a good like kind of mystery that's a little different than the stuff that we've seen before. So he starts screaming that he's not going to go back to the penal colony, and McCoy injects him with the sedative to knock him out. And we go back to the bridge, and Kirk asks Spock how long
before we go to the bridge, I just want to clarify something real quick. The actor who was acting like he was in pain and doing that was really good.
Yeah, I forgot to note that, but yeah.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, that was really good. Like, I truly thought, like, I could feel, I never questioned that he was in pain as he was doing the whole thing. I thought it was really cool how he started talking and started shaking, and in the middle of him talking, he would act like he was in pain so he couldn't get it out. I thought it was really cool and clever. I just want to
and he was like super sweaty and everything. Yeah, this was the scene where too I was like, yeah, he's really like, I really like this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, because even though they said he wasn't schizophrenic, that's what I kept jumping back to.
Yeah, like there's clearly something like a little bit off, and like he played it really well. So we are back on the bridge, and Kirk asks Spock how long until they reach the colony, and Spock says that they have about an hour. I think it was like 57 minutes, some odd seconds. And he says that he's studying a tape that he got in the ship's records that show that Dr. Simon Van Gelder was assigned to the Tantalus penal colony about 6 months ago, and that he was the assistant of Dr. Adams. And I'm like, oh man, that Dr. Adams, I had a bad feeling about him, during that first conversation. So Kirk decides to call the colony to talk to Dr. Adams, and he asks Adams for information about Van Gelder, and he's told that Van Gelder was working on an experimental rehabilitation beam, and that Van Gelder tested it on himself, and that's how he ended up in the state that he's in. At which point McCoy enters the bridge and kind of like comes up to Kirk real close and quietly tells him that that what he's hearing isn't true. So Kirk puts Dr. Adams on hold.
Without
even telling him. First I thought he hung up on him, but
he didn't even tell him he was going to put him on a hold. He just put him on hold.
Yeah, just flips the switch and leaves him hanging, which is, classic Kirk style. He has no phone etiquette, like, at all.
No, he tells him to stand by.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he does. He does a little bit later. Yeah.
He said, talk to him and say, yeah, Dr. Adams, please stand by. Whatever. Yeah,
he doesn't at this point, but then later in the conversation, he puts him on hold again, and he tells him at that point. But like in this one, he just flips it over and just leaves him.
I actually thought he generally hung up on him. Like, oh, I'm just going to hang up on you. Like, I do everyone else.
That's what I thought too. And then he goes back to talking to him. But Bones explains that he doesn't believe Dr. Adams, and it's something that he can't explain. It's just kind of a feeling that he has. And Kirk gets really annoyed and starts defending Dr. Adams and says that he's done more for the humane treatment of prisoners in the last 20 years than anybody has done in the last 40 centuries. And that, Kirk says he's been to the penal colonies and that they're not in cages anymore like they used to be. And he's really just like fanboying for Dr. Adams here, which I thought was really weird for Kirk. Like, he just seems to be a huge fan of this guy. Like, he's got posters of him on his wall.
Didn't he fanboy over another doctor in one of the earlier episodes also? Like, he really wanted to meet him?
It was just when What Are Little Girls Made Of? Yeah, that doctor. He was like super fanboy over that guy too.
Apparently,
Yeah, but I
he's a
think
fan of the
the idea about
doctors.
this though is for Jim. See, I think whenever it comes to certain doctors who do things that are amazing, he feels some type of way. Like he's like, okay, this guy has taken the violence and the harm out of the prison system, and now they're getting rehabilitated by his process. You know, because if you realize, like, Kirk does not go to violence. That's not really his thing. It's okay. I'll get the violence, but you have to make me go there. He
Right.
he tries everything diplomatically, everything else diplomatically. But then at the end, he's like, you know what? Okay, fine. Let's go to violence. That's the only option. This doctor has took an old prison system in the last 20 years and took the violence and and rehabilitated all these prisoners. So he's like, hey, he's saved so many lives, like, and so he trusts Dr. Adams more than he trusts Scott, my Bones at the time. I'm sorry, Bones at the time. So I get what Kurt's his point is. I just think that it's just not. I don't think it's fanboy as much as it's respect of somebody who did something that nobody thought was possible.
I just thought that like maybe it was in the acting, but like he just came off as, really, really defending Dr. Adams. And like I get that, what you said makes sense, but on the other side of that is McCoy, which is first of all his ship's head surgeon, and then second of all, like a really close friend of his who has typically been, right about situations like this in the past. So you would think that he would, give McCoy a little bit of leeway or a little bit of, he would believe him a little bit, at least enough to be like, okay, I'll take that into consideration. But he's just straight like, no, this guy is amazing. Like, you're trash. Get out of here.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I he should have found like a middle ground on kind of both of what you're saying.
Yeah, that's at least what I had expected. Like, you don't have to believe him outright, but go, okay, McCoy is a capable, trusted, friend, but also, professionally good at what he does, and maybe I should take that into consideration.
Okay, I got you. I feel what you. So we both got both point. We both got to the same point, but different ways about it. I get
Yeah,
what you're saying. It could be either
yeah,
or, but I think but it could be either or. But I understand what you're saying.
yeah. So Spock interrupts him and says that they should ask Dr. Adams if he wants Van Gelder returned. He's like, you guys, does he even want this guy back? Which, I mean, why wouldn't you? But Kirk returns back to his communicator and talks to Adams, who asks them if they're going to be passing by any medical facilities that are better than they have in the penal colony, because he says he wants Van Gelder to get the best treatment that they have available. So Kirk says he's going to ask the ship's surgeon, and this is when he puts Dr. Adams on hold, and he turns to McCoy, and McCoy says that he's like, Adams knows there's nothing better between here and there, so obviously not. But he says that there's something unusual going on, and Kirk's like, well, that it's just your assumption. And so McCoy says that he is required to enter any reasonable doubts he has into his medical log, and that Kirk is required to answer those in his log. And at this point, I'm like, fuck yeah. Like, that's a solid move. That's almost like going to HR. Like, he made it official, and now Kirk has to respond to that.
I enjoyed that scene.
I think it's funny because like after he does it, Kirk kind of smirks, like, "Okay, you got this."
Yeah,
one."
he's like, that's the game we're playing. Okay. And like even Spock nods. He's like, dude, nice.
Yeah. Like they all. It's funny because it was like a debate or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, whatever," and then he ends up coming up with this way of making him have to do it. And it's like Kurt and Spock respecting him at the same time. Like, okay, since I I won't come off like I am trashing Doctor Adams way he's doing things. I come off like, hey, my surgeon, he put this in. I gotta come down and check things out. And then, oh yeah, come on, come ahead and do it. It doesn't seem like Kurt's doing it out of like he doesn't touch Dr. Adams. He's doing it because the doctor, he's required by the code.
Yeah, I looked at it like, McCoy approached him as a friend first, and then since he didn't get anywhere with that, then he had to take the official route. Like, hey,
Okay.
you didn't listen to my advice, and now you're not gonna have a choice.
Yeah,
which
I like it.
which I thought was just a great move.
Plus,
I like the way you say it better.
Plus, Kirk gets to meet apparently one of his heroes, so everyone kind of wins.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Kirk comes back to talk to Dr. Adams and says, he's like, hey, this is pretty embarrassing, but, I'm required by my regulations to investigate this matter. And Adams is like, oh, that's cool. You consider it doing me a favor. And then he invites Kirk to beam down and investigate the facilities for himself. And Kirk agrees with that. And then Adams asks if he can only bring like a small landing party to keep exposure to outside contact to a minimum. And Kirk agrees with that and then hangs up on him in classic Kirk fashion, which we've already been in this situation once before, dude. Like when people are asking you specifically don't bring a bunch of people, like that's typically a bad sign, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, come on now. Come on. Hey, maybe he don't want to, I thought the first thing they thought was, hey, don't bring any women because we're coming to a penal colony. But that changes. That's the first thing I thought. Like, oh, maybe he said, hey, don't bring a bunch of people down here. I want to wait. I thought it was going to be all men. So, but anyway, I'm not sure what they expect at the time. It was just kind of weird.
Yeah, so Kirk turns to McCoy and he tells him to find somebody within his department with psychiatric and penal or penology experience.
Which we all know where this is going.
Penology just kills me. Yeah, so McCoy just simply responds with yes, sir. So like he's obviously pissed. And then we go to a commercial and we come back to another captain's log, just recapping current events. And Kirk goes over to Spock and they contact McCoy on a video screen. And McCoy says that Van Gelder is still violently agitated. And Kirk is like, well, I suppose that means that you want to keep him here during the investigation. And Spock actually agrees that they should keep him there during the investigation. So McCoy says that he found somebody with the experience that Kirk wants and that Dr. Noel will be standing by in the transporter room. And then Kirk and Spock leave the bridge and head for the transporter room. So they get there, and Kirk sees the very attractive technician standing on the transporter, and she introduces herself as Dr. Helen Noel and says that, they've met before. And Kirk and Spock give each other like a quick glance, like, oh, geez. And honestly, I actually, like, I laughed out loud. I was like, dude, McCoy is amazing in this episode. Like, he sent like this. He knows... Yeah. He knows Kirk's weakness.
He knew exactly how to mess with Kirk. Like, okay, you want to mess with me? I'm going to pick this chick. I know you. I know how you are. Like, everything about it. It's just a smart-ass thing.
Man, everyone knows Kirk's weakness.
Yeah, as soon as I saw the doctor, I'm like, you know what? Here we go. I said, Kirk's in trouble. As soon as I saw that was the doctor, I was like, yeah, Kirk's in trouble. He's done.
Which is really funny because you remember the last episode we were discussing who would win in a fight and how McCoy... like is smart, so like maybe not the best fighter, so he would find Kirk's weakness. Well, like here he is, like they're having a little, like just like a little fight, and he's already exploiting that weakness.
You gotta fight Kirk surrounded by women. You gotta have all women watching you guys fight. While you're fighting Kirk, you get to the advantage. She's like, oh, I'm trying to fight. I can't focus.
The other thing that I really like about this is that Spock is having the time of his life watching these guys have like this little spat. Like Spock's just sitting by, like, oh yeah, good going McCoy, like, oh good going Kirk, like he's just smirking and raising eyebrows, like he's loving it.
He's enjoying this stuff, this little fest they're having with each other. He's like enjoying it, like a background, like, oh, this is funny.
Yeah. So Kirk goes up on the transporter, and Dr. Noel asks if he remembers the science lab Christmas party where he dropped in, and he quickly cuts her off. He's like, yeah, I remember.
Those Christmas parties will always get ya.
Dude, I started laughing again. I was like, uh-oh. And Kirk messed up too. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be a great episode. See, the only thing I thought, like when I got to this part though, I thought the banter between them two would keep me going the entire episode. Like I was like, if this happens all episode, I'm gonna really enjoy this episode. Like I don't know.
I wonder how Janice would have felt if she found out about that Christmas party.
and part two, it's weird. I don't know where she is because this should be her.
Right.
Like I was like, why ain't this Janice?
She's on vacation too right now.
Well, yeah, it's not that Janice doesn't have the skill or whatever at all. Because I thought, okay, if they bring Janice, they might have to change the story around, but still find a female character like to have Janice in it. I just thought they brought this new female character in, and I thought it was kind of strange that it wasn't Janice for a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, what happens later on in the episode, Janice would sure like to have been in her shoes, but that's skipping ahead.
Yeah. I thought it should have been Janice. That was weird they had a new character at the same time. I got it. I just somehow thought it would have been him stuck with Janice again.
I just like that there's
Yeah.
a whole probably history with Kirk with all these women on the ship where he's like, oh god, not this one.
Yeah. And
I didn't
McCoy
think about
found that one, and she just
Yeah.
happened to have the relevant experience. So Spock asks Kirk if there's a problem, and he steps off the transporter pad to go talk to Spock, and he's like, yeah, tell McCoy that she had better check out as the best assistant I've ever had. Like he knows he got at that point.
Yep.
Like, he knows. McCoy got him. So Kirk and Dr. Noel beam to the planet, to the entrance of a building, and she suggests that Kirk calls her Helen, and he's like, this is not the time. He's like, if this is another time, it's another place, and it's another situation. So
Yeah, that's kind of unprofessional on her behalf.
I thought she was just kind of being friendly, but yeah, I can see. At first, I just thought, I thought she was being friendly, but yeah, it seemed to be more like fraternization than.
Well, I feel like Bones
Yeah.
was like, hey, flirt with him a little bit, kind of throw him off his game.
Yeah, which kind of leads to my next point. When they walk into the elevator, her uniform was noticeably shorter than like all of the other women's on that show.
I
Like
almost,
she basically just had like ass cheek hanging out.
yeah. Well,
Which was
Bones
really weird.
knows what he's doing. He's like, make that skirt as short as possible.
Yeah, he's like, hey, go down there, flirt a little.
Okay, now I don't feel so sexualizing women so bad now that you brought it up first. Because I noticed that immediately about her. I thought, yo, is everything shorter? And I thought, why am I staring at her? Like I gotta quit staring at her. Like I swear it's shorter. So I'm like looking, like I felt bad. I kept staring at her skirt. Like I think it's shorter. Like I'm looking at the screen all close and stuff. Like I know I'm imagining things. Like, I cannot figure out. I knew something was up about her outfit. Like they seem to put the
Well-
women in shorter skirts as the episodes go along.
Well, honestly, what caught my attention was like when they turned to walk into the elevator, they're clearly wearing like shorts underneath that uniform, and her shorts are a slightly lighter shade of blue than the uniform is, and that it stuck out. And I was like, God damn, that's a short uniform.
I actually thought it was like blue underwear that was matching
It's
her
underwear.
skirt.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah, that's what I thought
like,
too. But I think that they wear shorts underneath there, or at least I would hope so.
Oh man, I do only wear underwear, bro.
Yeah, that's what caught my attention. But
Yeah.
they enter the room and it starts to shake and make a really loud noise, and like Kirk quickly grabs a hold of Helen, and then he realizes that they're just in an elevator that's going down really, really fast.
Which, how did you not know you're in an elevator at that point?
Right. It's just like the room's just like shaking. I don't know. I bet you could probably feel it when it
Well,
started
when you
moving.
walked into the
Maybe it's a
room,
huge
it would be a box shape and there'd be nothing in there. Like, obviously this must go
it may be
somewhere.
a box shape though. The issue is it may be a box shape, or maybe it's just as big as the room is. 'Cause
Yeah,
look at it.
like an
If you-
elevator doesn't
if
have to
you-
be a square.
a square, yeah, at all.
That's
It
true.
could have been a really big square. It could be big as the room. It could have a couch inside of it. We really don't know the whole aspects of the whole room. We just know that there was no indication it was an elevator.
Yeah.
But AKA, let's get Kurt to hold the chick. Let's find a way to get them together.
Yeah.
Let's give them that little moment.
So the elevator stops and the door opens, and they're met by Dr. Adams. And Helen jokingly suggests that they just call her Helen because she says there are so many titles around that they won't be sure who's talking to who, which is a pretty funny joke. I mean, there's probably a lot of doctor, captain.
Hey, Paul, since you're the
Yeah.
wardrobe guy, you're the clothes guy,
Uh-huh.
did you get like a cult feeling off their clothing once you see them?
Oh yeah. Actually, okay. It's funny you mention it. I wrote down in my notes literally. They're all wearing the same clothes. All the men. All the men are wearing the same outfit, but the females aren't wearing the same outfit. They're wearing the same style outfit, but different colors. If you notice,
Yeah.
all the female prisoners. Yeah.
I mean, I guess the prisoners are too. I was going to say they are at work, so it could be like a uniform, but you're right. The prisoners are wearing the same thing.
Yep. The prisoners are all wearing the same thing. Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting myself.
But I guess it is supposed to be more like a rehab center, not so much like prison, right? So it's not like they're going to have the striped jumpsuits.
It gave off a culty vibe, though.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure it did. Absolutely. So Kirk says that per regulation, he's going to check his weapon, so hand over his weapon, and Adams refuses to take it and says, hey, just keep it out of sight. So they move to a table where Adams suggests that they have a toast because they don't get many visitors, so he just wants to get drunk with somebody that's not crazy. And Kirk pulls out his communicator, tries to contact the ship, but Adams says that he's not going to get through because of the security screen. And he goes in and turns off the security force field, which Kirk should have known that, right? Maybe he should go brush up on his penal colony stuff.
Oh, don't do him like that. Oh, I say, don't do him like that. He forgot for a minute. He forgot where he was at, okay?
Yeah.
He's allowed to. He's the captain.
Well, Helen is pretty distracting.
That's true.
We'll make excuses for Kirk. The other guy, he has to go study. But Kirk has excuses. Kirk gets excuses around here, so he's cool. You know, like, oh, my back. Oh, I'm so busy doing other stuff. Me worrying about procedure just in the back of my head. I got time for that.
Yeah, he's got a lot on his mind.
Yeah, exactly.
So he calls Spock and tells him that they've arrived and that they're with Dr. Adams, which I think is really sweet that he's calling Spock and letting him know that he made it safe, even though it was like 2 seconds ago. Then Kirk says Kirk out and goes to hang up, and Spock gets him. He hits him with the Enterprise out and hangs up on him. So go Spock. You break that cycle.
Spock's like, I'm not going to let you hang up on me.
Yeah, he reached for the top of the communicator to like flip it down or turn it off or whatever. And Spock's like, no, Enterprise out. Like, got him. So a woman named Lathy enters the room, and Dr. Adams introduces them and says that she came down for rehab and that she stayed on as a therapist. So Kirk is like, well, I'm going to conduct an interview with her. And he starts asking her some questions and asks her about her past. And she says that the past doesn't matter because she isn't the person that she used to be. And she's very blank, just kind of, monotone, emotionless, I guess.
I put a robot talk.
Yeah, just very robotic.
Talk. I said crazy eyes has robot talk because I feel like her eyes.
That too, huh?
Dude, I feel like one of her eyes is looking a little bit to the right. Like, I think one of her eyes was misaligned. Dude,
I saw that in a few different people this episode.
Yeah, I thought maybe they went by like, yo, let's get people with crazy eyes to show the reference of this whatever's going on here, whatever. So like, I truly said I put crazy eyes robot talk.
Dr. Adams explains that letting go of unbearable memories is just part of their cure and their treatment, and Helen seems to agree with that method. So they go and they have their toast as Lathe watches oddly from the side. Like, she can't have a drink, so she's just kind of back there watching. And then we cut to a little bit later as they're finishing up their tour, and Kirk notices something in a room and asks Adams what it is. And he says that it's one of his failed experiments. So Helen tries to talk Kirk out of investigating it, but Kirk's like, no, we need to go check this out. And Adams, agrees, and they go into the room. So we go back to the Enterprise, where Van Gelder is still trying to explain what happened to Spock and McCoy. And he manages to get out something about a neural neutralizer and something about some lights and a control panel. But every time he tries to talk about anything, he just seems to be in an immense amount of pain. And then we cut back to the planet where Dr. Adams is explaining the neural neutralizer to Kirk and Helen. And there's a guy sitting in a chair underneath like a kind of light thing. And he says that they don't get much use out of it, but that a beam from above the patient neutralizes their brainwaves to relax them. And he says that the effects are only temporary. So Kirk asks them, why they keep using it if it doesn't do anything. And Adams says that they use it just based on the hope that it will help somebody.
Like, one day this might work.
Yeah, we're just going to keep, frying people's brains till it helps one of them. So Helen starts to explain that tranquilizers are fine, but, continually pumping chemicals into a person's bloodstream. And then Adams cuts her off and is just like, yeah, she's right. Like, doesn't even listen to what she's going to say, but you can kind of guess.
I thought that was kind of a dick move on his behalf. Like, she's arguing on the behalf of you, and he just cuts her off.
Right. Yeah. And Kirk starts to ask how the machine works. And there's a guy there that just gives him a quick rundown of the controls. So Helen explains that even on Earth, they use machines like this for treatment, and that there's nothing like medically wrong with them, or there's nothing bad about them. So Kirk asks Dr. Adams where Van Gelden's injuries happened. He's like, hey, we've gone through this whole place, and you still haven't shown me where he, hurt himself. And Dr. Adams says that it was in the room that they're in with the neural neutralizer, and he says that Simon tried the machine on full volume while he was by himself, and that there was nobody there to help him turn it off. So he suffered injuries because of that. They step away, and the attendant at the machine, like they just leave. They go back down the hallway, and the guy at the machine doesn't even really wait. Like, they're still on, like, in frame. and he cranks the volume up on this machine and tells the person in the chair that he has to forget everything that he heard, and that if he tries to remember any of it, it will cause him terrible pain that gets worse the harder he tries. So now we know how, what's going on with Van Gelden, or whatever, Van Gelder? Gelder. So Spock calls Kirk to talk about the neuroneutralizer, and Kirk says that, Adams explained what happened to Van Gelder, and he asks Spock if he has anything more, but Spock's not going to say anything because he knows that Adams is present. So Dr. Adams leaves to go talk to a staff member, and after he leaves, Spock tries to warn Kirk that he's in danger, and Helen just disagrees for some reason. She's like, no, we're good here, everything's safe. And Kirk agrees with her and says, hey, everything's good here. So, Van Gelder hurt himself. It wasn't Dr. Adams.
He did it to himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kirk says, or Helen says, that Van Gelder's brain has short-circuited and that he's having some delusions, and McCoy says he still has doubts, and Kirk is like, well, I have no more information. So that's that. And Kirk decides that they're going to spend the night there, and that he's going to check in every 4 hours, and then he does his Kirk thing and hangs up. If it was Spock on the other end of that, though, instead of McCoy, then he would have got the Enterprise out. So we're still in the Enterprise here, and Van Gelden starts yelling that, they shouldn't let Kirk stay there. And McCoy and Spock go to sedate him, and he says that he's going to try to behave, and that he's going to fight it if they don't sedate him, because he doesn't want to be knocked out. And he warns them that Dr. Adams is going to try to kill Kirk and Helen. And we go to a commercial. We come back from the commercial, and Spock is giving a captain's log saying that he's going to use an ancient Vulcan technique to probe Van Gelder's mind. And so we cut to McCoy, asking Spock to use that technique, and Spock says that he's never used it on a human before, that it's a hidden personal thing to Vulcan people. And McCoy argues that, Kirk could be in trouble, and, he wants to know if it's going to work, if the Vulcan technique will work. So Spock approaches Van Gelder and says that it's going to be, it could be dangerous, and it's going to require him to make some pressure changes to Van Gelder's nerves and blood system, or blood vessels. And Van Gelder agrees to let him do it. So Spock says that, it's only going to affect the person that he touches, so McCoy's going to be completely safe, and that it's not, for some reason he specifies that it's not like hypnosis. But then he puts his hand on Van Gelder's forehead and his throat and starts talking to him like he is hypnotizing him.
He's like,
I gotta say right now, I gotta cut in here. So this whole 2-minute situation with his hands on his head, I don't know why it made me real uncomfortable, but I felt like, I don't even know. I felt like it was like a sex scene in a TV show. Let's be real here. That's how I felt. I swear, because if you watch it, it's like he's caressing his head, caressing his neck, getting all close, almost rubbing their faces so close together. They are literally almost making out. I swear, if you look, dude, it's almost like it's a sex scene of this show, or whatever.
Hey, don't judge that Vulcan technique.
I was like, yo, is it me, or is this like a sex scene that we're not even paying attention to? I swear. It was super intimate. The music kind of slowed down. They changed it was like the lighting got, the camera angle, lighting got softer. I'm telling you right now.
Well, even towards the end, Spock started to whisper, in his ear.
I'm telling you, dude. I'm telling you, man. It was like he was like, oh yeah, let me get inside your mind. Let's say it picks up women too. Let's have a mind meld together. Let me hold you close.
He's like, you're getting very sleepy. Now you're getting very aroused. And he's like, oh, wait, shit, wrong one. That's not the one I meant to do.
He's like, you're not supposed to be sending blood down there.
Yeah,
oh dear God.
I'm gonna change your nerve, and it's gonna feel like you're you'll be fine. Just
I'm telling you, it's all the penal talk.
Dude, I'm telling you, this whole scene to me felt like it's like if I imagine Spock picking up a chick and doing this to a chick, this is how I imagined it would be. This wasn't very clinical. This is like a romantic intimate thing. Now maybe that's how it's supposed to look, and I'm just laughing about it. But it made me laugh so hard the way he was doing it.
Well, he even he put his one hand on the guy's forehead and then his other hand on his throat, and that one's not even necessary. That's just his kink.
Yeah,
he likes to do a little bit of choking.
Oh my God! Oh, that's it. I was laughing so hard. It made me laugh.
So, back on Tantalus, Kirk enters Helen's room and asks her what she thinks of the inmates at the facility. She's like, oh, this could have waited till tomorrow. And he's like, well, I'm not waiting. So she says that she thinks that they're all happy and they're well adjusted. And he says that, they're a little bit blank. And he says that he wants to go see the machine again. And Helen doesn't think that there's a reason to go see that. And he makes this kind of note about, how the good thing about being a captain is that he can ask for advice, but that he doesn't have to follow it, which is pretty solid. So he decides he's just going to go.
Good line.
Yeah. So he decides he's going to go anyway, and he leaves, and, she has to go with him. And I thought at this point that it was really funny that Kirk is now thinking that there's something really suspicious going on, and the person that McCoy sent to, kind of act as him is now acting like Kirk was at the beginning of the episode, where Kirk's like, hey, he's kind of McCoy now. He's like, something's going on. And she's like, flipped. No, there's nothing going on. Yeah.
Yeah, it flipped. But I think slowly but surely he started, like, Bones says something's going on. Bones is stuck on this. And let me go in here with the idea of, like, he's like, Kurt's like learning what's going on as he's down there and realizing things aren't exactly what they seem to be.
Yeah. So, back on the ship, Spock is still working on Van Gelden, who is in like a trance-like state, and he's explaining, what was done to him by Dr. Adams. And then we go back to the planet where Kirk is going to try the neural neutralizer with Helen at the controls, because why the hell not? Like, obviously nothing bad's going to happen there. So he just trusts that, she's not going to do any harm or any damage to him. So he sits in the chair and says that he's ready to go. And she turns on the machine at a minimum intensity for a few seconds, and then she turns it off. And he's like, hey, what are we doing? I'm ready. And she explains that she already did it. And he's like, well, nothing happened. That's really weird. And she says, well, your face went blank while the machine was on. So he says they're going to go ahead and do it again, but wants her to try to give him like a harmless suggestion. So she turns the machine on and tells him that he's hungry, and then she turns the machine back off. And when he gets done, he's like, well, when we're done here, I'd like to go find a kitchen to raid somewhere.
He's like, I got the munchies.
Yeah. So she tells him that she's the one that put that suggestion in his mind. So he says that they're going to try again. And this time he wants her to use an unusual suggestion so that, they can be sure. Because, maybe he is just hungry. He doesn't know. So she turns the machine back on and starts to talk about the Christmas party. Saying that they danced and that they talked about the stars, and then she starts to tell him that it happened a different way than it really did, and says that he swept her off her feet and he took her to his cabin. And then this is where it moves to like kind of a dream state. So like he's envisioning what she was talking about.
Well, what she was fantasizing about.
Yeah, like, so they go to this dream state, and they're in there, like, they have this romance dialogue, and then they kiss, and I'm like, dude, she wrote a whole-ass romance novel about this encounter. Like, she's been thinking about this one for a while.
Yeah, another thing I want to clarify that I noticed, is when they filmed that dream scene, which was kind of interesting, the outside was blurred.
Yeah.
It was like everything was kind of blurry. And then and they were kind of in the middle in like this dreamy type phase. I don't know. Like sometimes they do really clever things with cameras on here where they clarify like dreams or clarify certain scenes and they film them a certain way so cleverly where you get what's going on. So I thought it was really smart for them to really do that fuzz, add the fuzz and the blurriness to it to make it.
Yeah, it's that kind of classic dream sequence effect.
Yeah, and the thing about it is like this is early. What, 60s, 70s, early? So like
late 60s, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's like this is when that kind of things started happening. You got to remember, before a lot of this stuff, there wasn't color TVs. It was black and white. Right. So I think it's really cool how they do some film of the scenes, angles, things they do, and subtle things they do that because they don't have CGI. The subtle things they do to clarify that you're in a dream state. I think like the CGI isn't very good, so I assume I think it's really cool.
What I think is interesting, and it really has no bearing on the show, is that, like, when we see this effect, we instantly realize that this is a dream state and not what's happening, current time in the show. So I wonder what it is about our own minds where we don't have to have it explained to us. We just see that effect and we go, oh, okay, it's a dream. Like, that's just some weird, like, human psychology thing that I think is fairly interesting. I don't think it's human
psychology as much as it's been used so much time in our stuff now, though, that, like, it becomes part of you just pick it up. It just, it's been used so much in other movies, other things, or whatever, that your brain goes, okay, that's what's going on because this reason.
Well, aren't memories in general foggy to begin with?
I mean, some of mine are pretty clear.
Well, no, I'm saying like, aren't memories sometimes foggy when you're reflecting on something in your own mind?
The term,
you can somewhat
foggy,
see it, but it's a haze.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah, the term foggy in memory in a way, because it's hard to remember things that clearly. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I just wonder like how this was perceived like the very first time somebody saw the effect, if people just immediately recognize that, it signifies that they're in a dream state.
No.
I don't know.
No. The first person that saw that was like, my TV's broken. Damn it.
Yeah, they're like, what the hell is this? Like, are my eyes screwed up or is my TV messed up?
They yell at their kids like, hey, go fix the bunny ears.
That's funny you mentioned that, because I don't know.
Yeah.
Because growing up as a kid, when I saw man, we get so deep in this now. Wow.
Yeah, it just made sense though, right?
Growing up as a kid, when I saw dream stuff in cartoons, I remember there being like a little squiggly line a lot of times, and they're like,
right.
or whatever, and then everything would be kind of cloudy, whatever. I don't know. I didn't think about that before. How something like camera, the way camera is would just literally make you know it's a dream that quick.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So, as nobody could have predicted, Helen gets grabbed from behind while she's at the controls, and Dr. Adams is suddenly at the controls of the machine. And he turns up the intensity and implants in Kirk's mind that he's madly in love with Helen. And he says that, you have to have her, and that your pain's going to grow, worse every second that you're not around her.
And she's like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, she's like, no, please stop. Like, she was well on her way to doing that anyway. She's like, what are you doing, you idiot? Like, I had the whole novel written.
I was about to do that in 5 seconds. You didn't have to interrupt me.
Yeah. Yeah, like, Dr. Adams is just making it super vague, and she's putting whole memories in.
He goes over the edge, though. He's like, you're madly in love with her. You got to have her. You cheat your life for her. She was just trying to have a fantasy where they had a good time at the Christmas party, which was just,
you give her another 5 minutes, and he would have thought that he would have woke up thinking they were married.
No, she wasn't.
She would have built a whole lifetime of memories for him. She pulls out like a big ass notebook of just all these memories.
She was still hot for him after that Christmas party.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. It was just a Christmas party. She was just trying to go in there,
I don't know. She seemed pretty thirsty for him.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of fantasy, though. It's just a little
her
fantasy.
You can't tell me she hadn't daydreamed about that once or twice. Like, she knew what she was doing.
Hey, yeah, I'm just saying that she didn't,
Yeah, so the doctor says, that the pain gets worse whenever Helen's not there, whenever Kirk's not around her. And he says, but now she's gone, and he cranks up the machine. So Kirk starts yelling for Helen not to go, and he says that he needs her. She's just over there like, oh yeah. And Dr. Adams makes Kirk tells him to drop his phaser on the floor, but Kirk kind of fights back. And Dr. Adams says that the pain is going to increase unless Kirk obeys him. So Kirk drops his phaser, and then Dr. Adams tells him to drop his communicator as well. And Kirk gets out his communicator, and he opens it, and he tries to call the Enterprise. But Dr. Adams turns up the machine, and then Kirk starts just laughing like a maniac. And he's just laughing uncontrollably.
This scene does show how strong-willed Kirk is.
Yeah, incredibly strong-willed. So a little bit later, Kirk wakes up in his room with Helen, and he starts telling her about how he's loved her for all these years, and she tries to get him to remember that Adams has implanted all of these emotions and feelings in Kirk's mind. And so he just snaps out of it instantly. He's just like, oh yeah, I remember that. And then he goes towards an air conditioning duct on the wall and asks Helen if she can get through the duct to the power supply to short circuit the security force field. And I was really upset by that.
That for me was just, it was awkward, and weird to me, because we know Kirk's strong-willed. We get that. But why didn't he I wish he would have displayed the pain old dude had as he was trying to remember it or something.
Yeah, he just snapped out of it immediately.
He just snapped out of it. Yeah, and I got it, because Kirk is, Kurt's Kirk. He has super strong will, and I respect that. But it just, the way they did it wasn't very good for his character, or good for the story. Said, oh yeah, they kind of oh yeah, this machine's been doing this the whole time, is struggling, but he's not having the same issues. I wish they would have Like just made it just something they could do just something so subtle in here, like like he was just him in pain, trying to remember him in pain, like trying to get the memory out or something, and then he gets it out. Because there Kurt does some good acting in this, like good parts. It's just particularly that that notion of him not having the pain to remember kind of stuck with me. It kind of stuck with
Yeah,
me. I don't
it
like
was
it.
just he kind of he just got over it immediately. Like she's just
Yeah,
like, hey, that you got to snap out of that. That was something that Dr. Adams put in you, and he's like, oh, all right, like he's
yeah,
just fine with
yeah.
it.
I would
It's
have
just,
liked to
oh
see
no
her.
shit, okay, I'm fine.
I would have liked to seen her like maybe slap him across the face a few times, like, "Hey, snap out of it."
Right, like
That
literally
would have been
anything.
classic old school, but that would have worked for me too.
Yeah,
Like
just literally anything.
yeah, literally something. There's some kind of reference to just make Kurt Superman all of a sudden. Like you
Yeah,
can't make Kurt ain't Superman. Like he's a Superman, but he ain't Superman. Like so it's like it kind of nullifies the whole first 40 minutes of the 30 minutes of the show in a way to me. Because if he can snap out that easy, why can't they do snap out so easy? Unless they're saying he wasn't connected to a prolonged, so the effects weren't that bad. If they would say that later on, I'd have been like, oh, okay, but there's no reference
right.
to that at the moment. He just kind of snaps out of it. I don't get it.
Besides that, maybe you could
Yeah.
argue that Kirk has an almost iron will.
Right. Yeah, I think that's kind of where they were going with this whole
I think
thing.
they're going for it, but you can give him an iron will without making him Superman.
No, I agree
Yeah,
with that.
I mean, let him struggle a little. Like, let him overcome it, but make him struggle.
Yeah. Make it, a slight struggle. That's all I'm asking for. A slight struggle.
Yeah. So, Helen says that she doesn't have any experience with hyperpower circuits, and Kirk says that if she touches the wrong line, then she's gonna get electrocuted and she's gonna die. And she says that that's anything is better than going through Dr. Adams' treatment, and she just climbs in the vent. Which, I mean, hey, good for her. Like, that's a fair point.
And that's a big ass vent, by the way.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah, it's an air conditioning vent. They're it's a
Yeah.
prison. It's not hell. Jeez, they gotta have air
No,
conditioning
time
too.
out. Okay. It's funny this thing because I recently had this thing where it said people, what it say? Things that movies trick people into thinking. Air vents are not big enough for people to crawl through.
Yeah, but listen, these are
They're never that
future
big.
air vents on another planet.
Yeah. Okay. Stop it now. It just happened to be the right size for her to crawl through. Why does the air vent need to be so big? Explain that to me. You can have a small air vent and still get the same amount of air out. It'll just come out harder. Like it's air. Think about it.
Yeah.
This I'm gonna let it go because it's a classic thing to have the air
Yeah,
vents
it's
you
plot
crawl through. I get it.
convenience.
Yada yada yada. But yeah, it's a classic thing over time. But I mean, she fit in there perfect. It's so damn big. Kirk could have went through that, man.
I
Yeah,
thought that
yeah,
too.
he
I'm like,
could have.
Kirk, you could fit in there.
Yeah, they could have went through there together.
Yeah, but then they would have noticed he was missing immediately instead of like noticing she was missing later.
Yeah.
But that's when the door does open and some security guards come to take Kirk, and he's like, "Oh, off for another treatment, are we?"
He just walks right on out. He's like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, he knows there's no point in fighting at this point. I mean, what are you gonna do with those guys with the phasers?
True.
So they go to the treatment room, and Dr. Adams has the machine turned on, and Kirk is sitting in the chair, and
You know what's interesting about the chair is that there's no straps to hold him down.
yeah, and it's just like a recliner with no straps.
Seriously, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, there's nothing there holding him. I mean, he even gets up during this scene.
I assume once they cut the thing on, maybe just it's in your mind so much you can't move. It hurts so bad or
But
something.
Yeah, that
Why would he stay in the chair before it got turned on? Like he could just got up and like, hey, I'm just gonna walk away and look at the ground.
right. In this particular instance, I feel like he doesn't go anywhere because he knows it wouldn't do any good. Like they could just phaser him and put him back in the chair. But the average patient, yeah, you sit him down, they could just stand back up.
That or he was just trying to give Helen enough time to get to the room that she needed. Maybe he was confident enough in his, his strong, willed mind that like, oh, hey, I can endure this until she turns it off.
Right. Yeah, so Dr. Adams starts implanting the notion that Kirk has to believe him and trust him. And then he explains that Van Gelder was on his hands and knees sobbing at that point in the treatment. So he's really impressed by Kirk's ability to resist it.
Just so you know, that's that subtle line. See, that line works for me to clarify some things. Like it's the other guy was broken out, sobbing and crying by then, and Kirk has strong will. See, that little subtle line for me works for me because it shows you how much more, how much stronger his mind is than the other guy.
Yeah, just
Like, that was
kind
smart.
of building up that iron will.
Yeah, that was smart. So like for them to do something that smart for that one line for me, and to do something so stupid earlier to make him not even have any effects for them earlier, I don't get it.
Yeah.
It is. So I don't know. Just do something smart right here earlier. I don't get it. But it's weird. It's weird writing. This is kind of weird writing to me.
So that weird lady Lathy comes back to report that Helen is missing, and so Dr. Adams cranks up the machine and asks Kirk where Helen is, but he says that he doesn't know. So Adams turns the machine up even more and asks him again, and Kirk goes to stand up, and he says that he doesn't know where she is, and then he just passes out on the floor. So meanwhile, Helen has made her way into the power room. And then we go back to the Enterprise, and Spock is trying to get transported through the security force field, but they can't get him through. And then we go back to the planet where a security team is looking for Helen in the power room, but she manages to evade them because they were trained by the same people that trained the Enterprise security force. So they don't know how to look for anything.
Dude, security guards in the future are just terrible, apparently.
They're awful, yeah.
Yep.
They're really bad.
Keep it going.
Yeah, so Helen evades them, and she goes to turn off the master power switch just as a guard grabs a hold of her from behind. And then Kirk wakes up, and he knocks out Dr. Adams and one of the security guards that was there. So the security guard that was fighting Helen throws her to the ground, and he turns the power back on, and then he goes to pick her up, and she kicks him into the master power and just electrocutes the shit out of this guy.
Which
I was pretty impressed by that.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, what an awesome scene. And I got to clarify something else I don't want to mention if I forget later on. This may be the first time that we saw Kurt saved by the female character in this episode for me. Maybe earlier it happened in an episode I missed. But like this is it's very interesting because like strong female characters weren't really a thing back then. It was always like damsel in distress or stuff like that, and then the male protagonist would try to save them.
Right.
Like for even for a small TV show to do something like this is like a 5 minutes or so where he's in trouble and without her he's done. Like for us nowadays it's nothing. Before the time, that's a really big deal.
Well, and I said I was well done on top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for on the time, that's a really big deal to have a female character try to save the captain of the ship. Like I know it's not like something that's well known or whatever. I just thought that it was really cool for cool for the times where it's a female character. I mean, they still made her sexual and sexualized her, like kind of had the whole romance thing, but they put in everything back then. But at the same time, they made her strong. Like even though she was that way, she's also strong, and she was able to save Kirk. And without Kirk, she wouldn't.
Well, there's nothing wrong with your character to be sexy and strong.
Yeah, which I mean, back then, just like he's saying, wasn't really a thing. But I think you're right. I think this is the first time that he's had like female protagonist help, like not help, but really save him. Because without her, he's screwed.
Yeah, without her, he's screwed. Yeah, so it's like they gave her I mean, it was like a kicker in a little fight, but they gave her an action scene. They without her, everybody's saved. She does everything. Like Kirk didn't do it. Like Kirk, this is not a Kirk episode. Honestly, this is her episode.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure if she's in the show anymore because after I never heard of her before. But like this is an episode where she technically, I feel like she's the main character and Kurt is the co-character for this episode, if you look at it that way.
Yeah.
Because like it's her story, her journey, her skepticism, her believing in Kurt, her saving everybody, and Kurt was been there. Because honestly, Kurt has made every mistake on this thing. Kurt has messed up this whole entire episode.
Yeah,
He's been able to make mistakes.
He's been very not like himself this whole thing.
Well, like we can say bones for that though.
Yeah. Kurt has been nothing but made mistakes this whole time. He put himself in bad situations the whole time. And it's funny that she is the one to save him out of that situation. I find it so like I am about writing and movies. I watch a lot of stuff. I find it so interesting in general with the fact that like we're watching a Star Trek show, the main character is there, but somehow the main character, he's a secondary character because she's the biggest. She's more important in this episode than he is.
Right.
In a way.
Yeah. So we go back to the Enterprise in the transporter room, and a technician's telling Spock that the force field is down and that they can send him to the source of the interruption. So Spock tells them to get some security people ready, and then he goes to the transporter alone and gets beamed down. So I'm guessing that like while the power was just kind of up and down, or maybe like while that guy was getting shocked, there was like a flicker and they're like, hey, we can get you through, but we got to go now. So he just decides to go by himself. So Helen escapes the power room through the vent that she came in through just as Spock is getting beamed in. And Spock goes to this little box, and I don't even know what he does. Like, I watched this, and he kind of messes with the outside of the box and, like, kind of flips this little switch thing, and then he calls the Enterprise and tells them that the force field is eliminated. I'm like, it's like a super tiny little switch for something as important as your force field, like your security force field, and it's not even in anything. It's on the outside of the box, and there's nothing, like, guarding anybody from just going there and flipping it.
Well, it looks like he ripped like a lock off before he opened it up.
Yeah, but like other than that, it was just a quick little...
Well, no, they probably didn't think there was going to be a Vulcan on there with super strength.
Yeah, but like it's even in a plastic box. Like a fire axe could get through that. Like you could hit it with something hard like a flashlight for a little bit and get through that thing. I just thought...
Is it a plastic box or is it a metal box with wires and circuits in it?
I think it was just a plastic box.
I thought maybe it was a metal box myself. Maybe, I don't know.
See, I thought it was a metal box also.
Okay, I'll have to go back and look. Again, maybe it's one of those things where my... contrast and my color on my monitor I watch this on is it's a little darker, so it's hard for me to see some stuff like that. So maybe you guys are right.
My mind just kind of assumed it was metal because it was on the wall, and why would you have a plastic box on a wall or something like that? I assumed it was like a metal box of wires and stuff, and I kind of assumed it was.
Yeah, I mean that could be the case. I thought that it just looked like super flimsy and not at all well guarded for something that is so important.
Yeah, but I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, so he turns that off, and then he goes and flips on the master power switch, and the machine turns back on with Dr. Adams under it. So at this point, Kirk is making his way back to the room to help Helen get out of the vent, and then he kisses her as Spock enters the room, and Spock kind of gives him this look like, whoa, what's going on here? Maybe I should come back later.
Yeah, no kidding. He also had a little smirk on his face. He's like, oh, yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, he's loving the events of this episode. So she pushes Kirk off and says that, it's not right and that Dr. Adams, may put that suggestion to him to do that. And then Kirk is like, oh, man, Dr. Adams, like I left him laying on the floor in the treatment room. And he goes running back to the treatment room. And we get to see in the hallway that the Enterprise security team is at work securing the building. So they do at least get to do something right. This, for once.
They showed up.
So in the treatment room, Kirk turns off the machine and McCoy goes to Adams, who's laying on the floor, and he says that Adams is dead. So Helen says that the machine wasn't turned on high enough to kill anybody, and Kirk mentions that Adams was all by himself and that his mind was being emptied even without even anybody there to torment him, there to keep him company.
That makes me want to ask, do you think he died a horrible death, or do you think it was peaceful?
I would think that if the machine interrupts your brainwaves and that you're basically like a blank slate, I can't imagine it was too bad, right? Like he wouldn't have been thinking anything. So he probably wouldn't have been feeling anything.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You know what? That's funny. I never even thought
would
about
the
that.
absolute void of nothingness drive you crazy?
Yeah, but how bad was the pain for him to get to that level though? It didn't seem that bad, maybe. So maybe right.
Like, is he aware that there's nothing in his brain at that point? Like he just got knocked out by Kirk. And he's just laying there having this machine interrupting his brainwaves. So, like, I would think that he's not thinking anything, that his mind is just basically a blank slate with nothing going on in there, as long as the machine's running. But, I mean, obviously, that's just my interpretation, my feelings about it.
Yeah, I think we all have it. I think we all have a different. We all have a kind of different, a good idea, but kind of differently, So
yeah. So a little bit of time passes, and we're back on the Enterprise, and Kirk enters the bridge. And Uhura tells him that there was a message from the colony, and Spock says that it was from Van Gelder, and he said that the treatment room and its equipment were all dismantled and destroyed. So Kirk sits in his captain's chair, and McCoy comes up to him and kind of muses that it's hard to believe that a guy could die of loneliness, and Kirk responds, but not when you've sat in that room. And he seems like just visibly like shaken up. Like he probably shouldn't be in the captain's chair. He should probably be like a therapist or getting treatment for like PTSD after that.
Let Spock take control for a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd want him in the captain's chair, but they go to warp. I don't remember the number and I didn't write it down. And they just go on to the next adventure. That's what I was thinking it was. Yeah, warp 1. And then they just go on to their next adventure. And it was kind of a one thing, and I should save this, but I'll just get out of the way now. one thing ruined this end for me. Like, I was perfectly okay with the somber, very toned down, like, that sucked, it was horrific, like, let's just go. But then they all had to do that everything's fine smirk at the end, and I'm like, oh, that was so unnecessary. Like, I wish they would have just left it with everybody just being, feeling kind of down.
Yeah, because you want stuff like that to kind of carry over. You want to see, like, the scars of their adventures. They kind of build up knowing that, hey, they've been through some stuff.
Yeah, and I really just don't want all's well that ends well every episode.
Yeah, but I think the smirk at the end of the episode is I think they have a thing where they whatever the end of the episode they always had a smirk at the end, like, okay, we made it, like whatever that was, we made it. So it's like acknowledgement to he does a lot to Spock. Sometimes at the moment what they do at the end, they'll say something to each other, like energize, whatever, have a moment, whatever, like, hey, we made it. That's our moment to, okay, we made it. Let's not dwell on it. We made it. Let's move on.
What happened to the
and that's been happening a lot through all the episodes.
What happened to the prisoner on board the ship? What they do with him?
The Van Well, he's the doctor.
Yeah, he's the guy that called them and said that he destroyed the room.
That he destroyed the room. So I'm assuming that without even telling us, he went back down there and got his mind. I must have missed that part,
that he went back down.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know. You just later on they say Dr. Van blah blah blah, Van Wild or whatever his name is, has told us that they have destroyed the equipment.
Yeah.
Took it apart or whatever. And so it's definitely they must have back down there and got his mind back, unwiped or whatever, and got his stuff back.
Yeah, and I was very okay with ending this without, because every episode so far has ended on like just kind of a corny little joke, and I was very okay with this one not ending on a joke, and then they had to do that stupid little smirk that kind of ruined it for me.
Yeah, see, you see it as a smirk. I see it as an acknowledgement. Hey, we made it. Let's move on.
Yeah,
we made it. Let's take a more happiness. Let's move on. So it's kind of whichever way you want to take it.
Yeah. So, Dan, you want to give us your final thoughts on this episode?
Overall, I really enjoyed the episode. Obviously, we've pointed out some of our complaints about the episode, especially early on, and I think they're very fair to say that, the security is just terrible, but overall, I enjoyed the episode. It might be the best one so far, in my opinion, that we've watched so far.
So it did live up to the hype then that we kind of built up last time.
I thought it did.
Personally, I really enjoyed the episode, and I'm willing to forgive the stupid stuff like with the security guards and all that. I liked the kind of like the underlying tone of like, how they treat their prisoners and how they're, experimenting on them and how that's not cool and all of that. Yeah, I can understand why people think that this is a must-watch episode. I think it was very well written, despite the fact that Kirk seems not like Kirk at all. Like, he was a little slower on the uptake on this one, but I really liked, the stuff between him and McCoy, and I really liked Spock just sitting off to the side, just having fun, watching them, kind of go at it. Even though he's been kind of mostly absent for the last few episodes, we definitely need some more Spock. But yeah, I was really happy with this one. I would say this is my favorite episode so far.
All right, so I really liked the sound the laser made when it went off. It was very sci-fi. I liked the CGI this episode. I like the whole treatment room itself. And the security guard thing was kind of funny. It is what it is. It put me on 12 because I noticed that immediately when I saw it. I thought, yo, I can't believe you're about to do this. And I don't know, I just noticed it. I did, the things I like about this episode, I talked about a little bit earlier, was the female protagonist being the hero. And it's weird because I don't think we ever see this character again. I'm not sure, I didn't look it up or not, but she looks like she's a minor character they added for this episode. Maybe we'll see her some more. If we haven't more, I like her. Like, she's by far my favorite female in any episode we've seen so far. I like her character. She's able to balance the sexiness and strength together. I think it's really cool.
Right.
Well, I just want to say, hey guys, if you guys follow our Twitter and stuff like that, and you guys want to go in there and reply and say your thoughts about this, by the way, hey, go ahead and put it up there.
And of course, that Twitter is at WWST_podcast. You can also join a discussion or questions, comments through email at wwstpod@gmail.com. You can find us on all of your favorite podcast platforms, including YouTube. And yeah, if you like the podcast or you didn't like it, you're kind of in between, just leave us a rating, leave us a comment, let us know. The next episode that we're going to cover is going to be Season 1, Episode 10, The Corbomite Maneuver. And this is another one that I've seen referenced quite a bit on Twitter, so another one that I'm looking forward to. And actually kind of looking ahead at just the titles of our next few episodes, we're really hitting a batch here that people are really calling like the best of the original series. Not to like discourage from, the other seasons and things, but these next few coming up are some that I'm really looking forward to.
Same
here. But unless you guys have anything else, that's going to be it for me for this time.
All right, later, guys.
Sayonara.